Welcome back to the Mainstream Paranormal Podcast. I'm your host, Merle, and with me always, my co-host, Larry.
How's it going, guys?
Man, we are finally set up in our new studio.
Man, I'm digging this new setup. I like it. It's been a long time to get to this point.
Yeah, it's still not completely done, but we're in it, and the equipment's working. Got all new mics and
Whole new setup, man. This is awesome.
we're still working on getting a video feed, but that'll come a little later after we get everything done.
Yeah, first video podcast. That's going to be awesome.
Oh yeah. Yep. Today we didn't do a whole lot of intro. We're just kind of gonna jump into it. This episode we're gonna do what we call in the industry a famous cryptid.
Yep.
Or a cryptozoological creature. And the one I'm talking about today, most people call it Bigfoot.
The most famous one of all.
Could call it Bigfoot, Sasquatch, depending on where you're at in the world.
Yowie.
We've got several of them to talk about, the different types and sightings and history on some of these. And some of them from different parts of the world. But we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. The Bigfoot is considered an ape creature. And there are many stories of these ape creatures found throughout the world. In both mythology and even modern day sightings.
Yep.
A creature fitting the description to this day has not been captured and studied. So researchers are still looking for all this physical evidence.
Yeah, when they say, I'm sorry to interrupt. When they say physical evidence, they're talking hair, DNA, an actual body instead of like photos and also footprints.
Right.
So,
yeah. Yeah, because I mean they've had cast of footprints.
right. Some that's been proved to be real, some's proved to be hoax.
Right.
So,
But yeah, going on with that, a lot of these reports proven to be hoaxes. I guess I'm saying that right.
yeah.
A lot of them passed down from the different tribes. But it seems like they don't want to interact with humans. That's why you're not getting. That's why there's not a lot of good photos and stuff out there.
Well, even the Native Americans that have named Sasquatch have all said that he's not a very social creature. Likes being on its own, doesn't like to be interactive with. So they've always said, look, in this portion of the woods, you don't go. So that's even in their own folklore that this creature is not the most pleasant thing to be around.
Right. And going on with some of that, as far as trying to keep people out of the woods and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
in some of especially down like in Louisiana, the Cajun area, it's considered to be a shapeshifter.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Huh.
Which we'll talk about a little bit later.
See, I just learned something.
I learned about that doing the research for this podcast. But yeah, Bigfoot, is the most well known, also known as Sasquatch. Sorry, I'm kind of getting a drink here. is it's a figure in North American folklore. It inhabits remote forests, mainly in the Pacific Northwest. Um,
Some
Espec-
up in Wisconsin.
yeah, of course, up into Canada.
Yeah.
The Lakota Indians of Wisconsin, they know the creature. Wow, that's a hard word.
Are you going to be able to pronounce that?
Chiatanka, which means big elder brother.
Actually, that's yeah. Okay. I was
Did
going to say
Did I pronounce it right?
Tonka.
Yeah.
Tonka. Yeah.
I got a little bit of Native American.
Do you?
I can name some things, but Bigfoot is usually described as a large, hairy, bipedal, meaning it walks
On 2 feet.
On
Yeah.
2 feet, yeah. Which is different from a lot of the big apes.
Yep.
And many believe that this animal is its close relatives may be found around the world, such as like the Yeti of Tibet, Nepal, and the Yowie of
Yeah.
Australia.
You know, some scientists or cryptologists actually think that Bigfoot could be, and I know it's like a stretch, but could be gigantic Pithecus, which was like a 10-foot ape that used to roam around, but they're not sure.
Okay. Let's see.
Various descriptions have that they've received with little support. It's generally described as a large, hairy, like ape creature ranging anywhere from 6 to 10 feet tall, weighing close to about 500 pounds, maybe give or take, and covered with dark brown or dark reddish hair. Large eyes, pronounced brow ridge, conical shaped head, low set forehead, you know, kind of if you picture like a gorilla nowadays
Right.
and just stand them up straight, that's what they're saying a Bigfoot looks like.
Kind of give you more of a
Visual.
a human stance,
Yeah.
but a gorilla.
Gorilla type frame, just massive creature. It's supposed to have a strong, unpleasant smell. Of course, you know, large footprints, anywhere from 24 inches long to 8 inches wide, 5 toes. Let's see here. Some people say they are pack creatures, or if there's more than one, you know, they have their own little
Community.
community.
Right.
Of course, you know, that's just speculation on that. Let's see here. Some of the tracks that people have found on trees and stuff had like claw marks that, you know, people can't make, but there's been like 4, not like a bear claw, but
Right.
like something just pulling chunks of wood. But there's so many descriptions and folklore passed down by the Native Americans of this thing and it's crazy.
Let's see. I guess a little history on it. They also considered the Native Americans, like Bigfoot, they call them wild men.
Mm-hmm.
It says wild men stories of the indigenous population of the Pacific Northwest. Legends exist prior to a single name. Keep getting little knocks and stuff. Maybe we got a Bigfoot outside. They differ in details. I don't know if I can even read that word.
Yeah, I don't even think I would try.
All right, well, we'll jump down. 1847, a man by the name of Paul Kane reported stories by the native people about skookums,
Skookums.
a race of cannibalistic wild men living in the peak of Mount St. Helens. Skookums appeared to have been regarded as supernatural rather than natural. Let's see, you got less menacing version, such as the one recorded by Reverend.
Just say Walker.
Yeah, Reverend Walker in 1840. Protestant missionary Reverend Walker recorded stories of giants among native people living in Spokane, Washington.
There you go.
The Indians claimed that these giants lived on and around the peaks of nearby mountains and stole salmon from fishermen's nets.
I wonder if they were just trying not to say, hey, bears got our fish.
Yeah.
Local legends were combined together with by J.W. Burns in a series of Canadian newspaper articles in the 20s. Each language had its own name for local version, but many names meant something along the lines of wild man or hairy man. Although other names described common actions it was said to perform. A guy named Burns, the same guy, J.W. Burns, coined the term Sasquatch, in which he used his article to describe a hypothetical single type of creature reflected in the various stories. So all he did was take all these stories of wild man, etc., and he just said, Sasquatch. Burns's articles were popularized by both the legal and its new name, making it well known in Western Canada before it gained popularity in the United States. In 1951, Eric Shipton had photographed what he described as a Yeti footprint. Let's see here. Generally, considerable attention of the story of the Yeti entered into popular conscience. And I mean, the list just goes on and on. Prominent reported sightings about it.
It's like you got 1924. Fred Beck claimed that he and 4 other miners were attacked one night in July 24 by several ape men throwing rocks at their cabin in an area later called Ape Canyon, Washington. Beck said the miners shot and possibly killed at least one of the creatures, precipitating an attack on their cabin, during which the creatures bombarded the cabin with rocks and tried to break in. The supposed incident was widely reported. Beck wrote a book about the alleged event in 1967, in which he argued that the creatures were mythical beings from another dimension, claiming that he had experienced psychic premonitions and visions his entire life, of which the ape men were only one component.
Yeah, and it also says that there are also local rumors that pranksters harass the men and planted fake footprints. Um 1958, bulldozer operator Jerry Crew took a newspaper office, a cast of one of the enormous footprints he had and other workers had seen an isolated work site at Bluff Creek, California. The crew was overseen by Wilbur L. Wallace, brother of Raymond L. Wallace. After Ray Wallace's death, his children came forward with a pair of 16-inch wooden feet. So that right there has to tell you that those were faked. The Roger Patterson and Robert Gimlin film reported that on October 20th they had captured a Sasquatch on film at Bluff Creek. This came to be known as the Patterson and Gimlin film. Many years later, Bob Hieronymus,
Wow.
acquaintance of Patterson, said that he had worn an ape costume for the making of the film. Now, I have something to say about this. All right. There has been a lot of people that have broken down that particular footage.
Right.
And when I say broke that down, they broke that thing down frame by frame. They've analyzed every inch of that film. And they have, some of those people have said there is no way somebody could have faked that due to the gait of the way the creature was walking, because it was walking with its knees inward slightly, and then when it moved, you could actually see the muscle tone in its legs flexing, like in the thigh
Right, which
muscle and all
you
that.
wouldn't get with a costume.
Right. So they're thinking maybe this guy was ticked off at Patterson and Gimli and has been trying to discredit them because he wanted credit.
Right.
So,
See, on September 16th, 2007, a hunter by the name of Rick Jacobs captured an image of a supposed Sasquatch by using an automatically triggered camera, a game cam, which
Yep.
we call, attached to a tree, prompting a spokesperson for the Pennsylvania Game Commission to say that it was likely an image of a bear with a severe case of mange.
yep.
The photo was taken near the town of Ridgeway, Pennsylvania.
In the Allegheny National Forest.
Okay. We got some proposed explanation for the sightings. A lot of them were already introduced in
Yeah.
other stuff. All these different hoaxes.
Scientific community.
It looks like next thing we want to talk about is
1970, what was it, in the 70s?
yeah. Let's see. Said the U.S. government released Bigfoot FBI file. It contains a few news clippings and formal letters to and from a monster hunter in the 1970s, leading to an examination of 15 hairs and some skin that the hunter believed came from the Bigfoot. It appears that Peter Byrne, the monster hunter, first wrote to the FBI August 26, 1976. His note printed on, it doesn't really matter, but fancy letterhead reading, "The Bigfoot Information Center and Exhibition suggests that the FBI was in possession of flesh and hair belonging to a mysterious creature, possibly belonging to a Bigfoot." "Gentlemen," Byrne wrote, will you kindly, to set the record straight once and for all, inform us if the FBI has examined hair which might be that of a Bigfoot? When this took place, if it did take place, what were the results of the analysis? And we really don't have
any information whether they did or didn't.
right.
The fact that there's so many sightings just in the United States, ranging anywhere from California all the way over to Wisconsin, Indiana, Ohio, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Georgia. And it seems like if you actually look at it, anywhere there's heavily wooded areas, that's where all the sightings are.
Right.
And, yeah, some of them have been reported on back roads and etc. But there's too many sightings of, and yeah, some of them could be faked, but there's too many cell phones out in this world now. People have caught, what was it down in Florida, where that guy caught the video of it playing in the field when he pulled over on the side of the road, and then other people started watching, and they couldn't tell what it was either. Even they were asked. And this guy caught a video of this thing playing out in the middle of a field. And other people have been hunting and had the presence of something watching them.
And then we've watched footage of the hunter from here in Mississippi.
Yeah. He's asking for help because he took a picture on his own property of some creature.
Well, he took a video.
Yeah. Of some creature up against a tree.
And it was a hairy type creature, and I mean, even a lot of the comments said that this couldn't have been somebody dressed up in a costume, because it was literally ripping parts of the tree off and throwing it.
I mean, I saw that.
Yeah.
And you could actually hear the rip.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was like branches breaking.
Right. Yeah.
And it wasn't up close to his camera either. You could hear it a distant snap as it was breaking all this. We live in Mississippi doing this podcast, and we've heard stories in our areas of hunters that, Tippah County.
Hey, we're gonna take a quick pause real quick. Hey, we're back. Sorry about that. Had a little situation we had to take care of.
Just a little technical issue.
All right. Let Larry get back to his story.
I was talking about Tippah County. There's a story about Booger Bottom in Tippah County where a lot of people won't go as far as hunting, but they'll go to try to call up the creature of Booger Bottom. And what it is there was a song about won't be cutting wood in Booger Bottom anymore. And the story is that a guy and his son went out into the woods. They were cutting up firewood, and his dad happened to look up, and there was a creature standing behind his son. So he ran over, grabbed his son, hightailed it out, and he wrote a song about it. And even to this day, there's stories about some kind of a weird creature being in Tippah County bottom called, Booger Bottom. And when you go hunt there, you actually have a feeling like something's watching you. You just have that creepy kind of feeling come over you.
Right.
So
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Tippah County's, it's maybe 45 minutes from our studio.
yeah.
So, I mean, this thing is pretty close to us.
And didn't you say that you read something about a sighting near Tishomingo?
There have been sightings, Tishomingo County, which is where our studio is actually located, up near the Tishomingo State Park.
Yeah.
It's usually the same thing. People are on one of the walking trails, because there are trails all over that park. And it's usually when they get down by the creek, which is Bear Creek.
Mm-hmm.
Runs through Tishomingo State Park, and there have been several people said they seen, a 7-8 foot tall creature. Couldn't explain it, what it was. They just said it was 7 to 8 feet tall, kind of a brownish gray hair,
Mm-hmm.
and that they can never get like a full glimpse of it.
Okay.
It was just quick, because it was usually moving back into the woods. Like, it knew they were there, so
Right.
it was trying to head out, and it must have took big strides, because it's gone so quick.
Jeez.
And I mean, a 7 foot creature, it's got to have a big
Yeah.
step.
Yeah. Big gate.
But I mean, that's usually what you hear about around
Okay.
here. Okay, now on with our the rest of our information here. We're going to go ahead and start with, I guess it'd be a relative of Bigfoot,
I would say cousin.
cousin.
Yeah.
We're going to go with the Yeti. It's the Tibetan name for the abominable snowman.
Yep.
Said to be a human-like monster whose tracks have been discovered in the frigid lands of snow in the Himalayan region of India, Nepal, and Tibet. The Yeti is but one of several unidentified creatures that inhabit the highlands of southern Asia. Several sightings, mainly of footprints, have been reported by Western explorers throughout the years.
And they say that the reason why you don't hear a lot about the Yeti anymore is a lot of people don't have, or the villagers no need have to climb the mountains anymore like they used to.
Right, a lot of them are starting to move towards the cities.
Yeah.
So it looks like the first mention of the Yeti was in 1832. B.H. Is it Hodson?
Yeah.
From the UK, is representative in Nepal. Described a creature who reportedly had attacked his servants. The natives called the beast Rakshas, which means demon. This was the first report of the Yeti. And you had another report in 1889. This from a British Army major, L.A. Waddell, found what he took to be large footprints in the snow on a high peak northeast of Sikkim. It says his bearers told him that those were the tracks of a man-like creature called the Yeti, and that it was quite likely to attack humans and carry them away as food.
So it's carnivorous.
Yeah. I mean, it goes all the way from 1832, and you got some in 1920s,
40s,
40s,
50s. And the most recent one was 1998. American climber Craig Kalonika on Mount Everest reported seeing a pair of Yetis while climbing down the mountain on its Chinese side. Both had thick, shiny black fur, he said, and walked upright.
So this kind of takes away from, all the picture, like drawings and stuff of the Yeti, where people have it as a white creature. And from one of the pictures that we seen, it looked like it had black fur.
Yeah.
But like you said, you've seen a pair of them, so that means they do move in
Clans.
packs. Or
Yeah,
clans.
clans.
Okay, next is going to be Bigfoot's Canadian counterpart, Sasquatch, which means hairy man. It's been allegedly sighted for centuries. Descriptions vary from being a creature at least 8 feet tall, with long, powerful arms, thick hair, and a foul smell, to being a semi-clothed, tool-carrying hominid, supposedly of man height. That sounds like a man to me.
Yeah. The other names, which is it's known by, depending on what part of the North American region you're in, could be Rulatak, which is Alaskan, Grassman from Ohio, Momo from Missouri, Oma, California, Old Yellowtop, Ontario, Skunkate, Florida, Wendigo, Quebec, Woods Devil, New Hampshire, Wookie from Louisiana, and Nukluk, Nakini, Northwest Territories, or simply the Bushman. Now the next one, I actually have a problem with this name for this creature, because Wendigo. Normally when you hear the name Wendigo, you think of something really sinister, something that's very aggressive.
Right.
And that's what we've always been taught. So,
see, we've been taught, Wendigo, it can mimic people's voices
Right.
and stuff.
it's like a shapeshifter and all that.
Right.
It's a huge, mysterious, human-like creature allegedly living in the forest of Quebec. According to Indian legends, the creature goes naked in the bush and eats Indians and makes a sinister hissing noise, often accompanied by fearful howls to strike terror in the hearts of anyone who hears it. And like I said, the Wendigo from Native American lore it's a shapeshifter. It steals souls.
Right.
It is just, I don't see how they can compare that to the Sasquatch, because it's on two different levels. Normally a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot, when you hear stories of it, it doesn't want to be around people. It tries to scare people off by throwing rocks, stumps, whatever near
Banging
them.
on trees, that kind of stuff.
Banging on trees, etc. Just trying to scare people out of its area.
Right.
But the Wendigo is just the opposite. This thing will come at you. So I don't see how they're compared in the same category.
I don't either. But however, this creature does fall into the category. It's the Florida skunk ape.
Yep.
Supposedly 7-foot tall gorilla-like creature said to resemble the legendary abominable snowman. Witnesses in the Florida Everglades have claimed to have spotted the red-haired Bigfoot, known locally as the skunk ape because of its appalling smell. National Park Service dismisses the stories as a hoax, but American tribes that live in the swamp insist it's real. So, I mean, it's like, you got the Seminole Indians down there and all the other different tribes.
Yep. And for the National Park Service to sit there and say all this is a hoax, when you have all these Native Americans with all the same stories and everything, and all these sightings, I don't know if they're trying to keep people from not being scared so they can still go out into the wild, enjoy nature and all that, while
Right.
knowing something's out there. There's no telling. The next one is one from Australia, which is called the Yowie. It also goes by some other names, which is Yoser. I'm sure that's an Aboriginal name. Tangira, Yahoo. What would you say? Koyo Orin?
Possibly.
And that's all from southern Australia. Jembra, Jengera. Can't even pronounce that one.
Muyi.
Yeah, Turamuli. And Lo An, Western Australia. Yeti, another cousin of the Bigfoot, this time from Australia, reports of a Sasquatch-like creature, also numerous throughout Australia. Ever since the European settlers first went to the continent. Yowie signs were made by the Aborigines and remembered in their folklore. Now, keep in mind that rabbit, I can't talk now. The Aborigines can have a very strong oral history.
Right. Yes.
So, I mean, they can trace everything back to a certain part. So for them to sit there and say this thing is real, then that's, yeah, you got to take them for their word.
Right.
Another earlier name for the creature is Yahoo.
Which we've heard in.
I heard that growing up.
Right. They have one in
South Carolina, North Carolina.
North Carolina,
One of the Carolinas, if not both. It's called the Yahoo.
the Yahoo, and it makes a Yahoo sound apparently.
Yeah, it sounds. I know a lot of people out there listening to our podcast have heard the sounds of Bigfoot yelling. The
Yeah.
that's the sound. But as I was growing up, my grandfather would always tell me that, you know, I need to be good, I need to behave, or the Yahoo would come get me out from the bottom. And I didn't know what he was talking about until later. And that's when I realized he was talking about Bigfoot.
Yeah, I never got threatened with Bigfoot. But the Yahoo, some of the accounts was the Aborigine term meaning devil or evil spirit. Sightings of Yowie take place mostly in south and central coastal regions of New South Wales, Queensland's Gold Coast, the Blue Mountain area west of Sydney is home to more than 3,200 historical sightings. That's a lot.
Yeah, it is.
In December 1979, a local couple ventured into the region for a quiet picnic. Suddenly, they came across the carcass of a mutilated kangaroo. Moreover, said the couple, the apparent perpetrator was only 4 feet away. They described a creature at least 10 feet tall, covered with hair, that stopped to stare back at them before finally disappearing into the brush.
Well, did you also know that Jonathan Swift, the guy that did Gulliver's Travels books in 1726, he actually mentioned in his books a subhuman race named the Yahoos.
Huh.
So,
been a long time since I
Yeah.
read that one. Let's see. We got the Brazilian Bigfoot, known as the Mapinguri.
Mm-hmm.
Is described as a tall, black-furred hominid, usually seen in the jungles along the Rio Araguaia,
Yeah.
a large river in Brazil's state of Mato
Grosso
Grosso
do Sul.
do Sul. Man, I can't pronounce some of these words now. Ape-like creatures have been reported in many areas of Brazil for over 200 years, but it seems that the central area of this immense and diversified country is the hotspot for them.
Let's see here. Other reports from South America describe the Macaguri as a large, foul-smelling nocturnal creature, which is standard with all the Bigfoot.
Right.
Smelly.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
you don't get to take a bath. All that hair, you don't smell.
Oh, yeah. Covered in rare hair with a frightful screaming cry. These other versions of the legendary creature is supposedly a strict vegetarian with feet that are turned backwards and claws capable of ripping apart palm trees it feeds on. So that's a different twist on it right there.
Right.
So, but, for 200 years,
Yeah. Now there's one here that I'm kind of worried about.
what's that?
It says according to an old Indian
Rubber tree worker?
a local mixed race people legends, the Mapinguri was a man whose hubris led him to seek immortality and who is now relegated to wander the forest forever as a stinking, shaggy, one-eyed beast, 15 feet tall, and with hair so thick it makes it invulnerable to bullets, swords, knives, arrows, and spears. Apparently, the creature loves tobacco and twists off the upper skulls of the human victims so as to suck up their gray matter. Yeah, I don't believe that.
Yeah, I don't either. Because,
I mean, we have never seen any other report of a 15-foot creature.
no.
That,
Nor have we heard anything about killing anybody.
Right,
They're always trying to ward them off.
right. Other than what they consider the Wendigo.
Yeah.
But I mean, all of the other accounts of this creature, there's nothing mentioned about
No.
attacking humans. Okay, you've got another South American Bigfoot known as the
Maricoxy.
Maricoxy. Ape-like creatures have been reported in many areas of South America. They go by different names depending on the region. You got the Aluxes, the Groazes, and the Gorayazes, which means dwarf-like man-faced animals. The Aguapans and the Vestices, evil man-like beasts. Yeah,
That's a lot of names we can't pronounce.
Yeah. Since the arrival of the Portuguese and Spanish in South America, a steady stream of reports about bestial and dangerous subhumans have filtered out of the hinterland. None is more compelling than the one of Colonel P.H. Fawcett, made world famous by his dramatic and still unexplained disappearances with his eldest son in the area. The Colonel's diaries were preserved up to his last fatal expedition and published by his son Brian Fawcett
Mm-hmm.
under the title Lost Trails, Lost Cities.
Now, is this the same guy?
Sorry about that.
Now, is this the same guy that did the Lost City of Z?
Not sure.
Because he came up missing.
And maybe we may need to look into that.
All right.
In the book, the colonel describes an encounter in 1914 with a group of enormous hairy savages that, although looked very primitive, were carrying bows and arrows. Apparently, these wild men could not speak but just grunt. And upon arriving their village, the colonel and his group were on the verge of being attacked, barely avoiding capture or death by firing their guns into the ground at the 8-man's feet.
It was Fawcett. The story of, and I know everybody's seen it, the Lost Story of Z. It was about the same guy, Colonel Fawcett. So, yeah.
Okay.
Now, see, the urine, this picture of him, if you actually compare that picture to a picture of gigantic Pithecus, which is what they say Bigfoot or could be, they look identical.
Yeah. And the urine is it's a mysterious creature, half human, half ape, that allegedly lived in the remote forest of central and southern China. The creature said to stand an average of 6.5 feet tall, and be covered in thick brown and red hair. Yeah, that picture does look exactly like this thing.
Yeah.
It is bipedal and has a hefty abdominal region, as well as ape-like muzzle, large ears, eyes like that of a human, leaving behind large footprints up to 16 inches long, with 5 toes, 4 small toes held together, and a large toe that points outward. So, almost like our toes.
Almost. The toes are almost like that of an ape when they walk. That one, it's kind of like your hand.
Right.
You know how your thumbs come further out?
Right.
So it's almost like that.
Okay.
Some of these I just don't. I don't see how they make it in the list.
Yeah. Almas. Also, Almasty and Albacity. Strange ape-like creatures allegedly resembling Neanderthal man that reportedly live in
Caucasus.
the Caucasus Mountains in the Republic of Kazakhstan, Central Asia.
Yep.
Are well known by local people who tell numerous stories of an apparent familiarity between humans and these creatures. Eyewitness accounts date back hundreds of years, describe Almas communicating with humans by means of gestures. There were even stories of Almas bartering food for trinkets.
All right. See, this is the problem I have with it right here. The adult ones have been described at least 5 feet tall. But if they were like resembling Neanderthal, that would almost make sense. But Neanderthal and Sasquatch, there's a huge height difference.
Right.
Huge. I mean, 4 feet difference. Neanderthal 5 feet. Sasquatch 9 feet to 10 feet tall. Yeah, I just don't. That's my own personal.
I mean, timeline on these things got 1420. Looks like
Yeah.
all the way to 1985 was the last documented. You got the Mite. Is that how you think you pronounce that? Mite?
Close enough, yeah.
Let's see. The Mite, it's another Himalayan name for Yeti. The Mite man beast is a type of yeti supposedly proportioned more like a hairy, heavyset man. So I don't know if I consider that into the. That sounds more like an ape.
Yeah.
Because, the chimiset. So where is this one from? Africa. It is considered by some to be Africa's Bigfoot. Reports of the creature are numerous in the dark continent, specifically in east central Kenya. It is described as being as large as a man, long reddish to yellow hair, short broad tail, sometimes going on 4 legs. See, there you go.
Yep.
Sounds more like an ape than
Yeah, because
being bipedal.
Bigfoot doesn't
No, Bigfoot does not go
ever.
on 4 legs.
No. The I don't even know how to come close to pronounce this one. This is Siberia's version of Bigfoot, and I'll spell it for you. It's CHUCHUNAA, which represents to outcast or fugitives. Was reported by a branch of Soviet Academy of Sciences recently as 1950s in the barely cold and forbidden region of northeast Siberia, who speculated that they might represent the last surviving remains of Asiatic
Aborigines.
yeah, thanks. That retreated to the upper reaches of the Yana and Indigirka rivers. These people are said to have extremely limited range of oral sound. This may have been genetic mutation, or is an indication of the people's Neanderthal origin. It's described as being very tall with a protruding brow and long matted hair, usually sporting some type of animal skin covering. Locals swear he is a man-eater. Recent reports suggest that they have withdrawn to even more remote areas away from encroaching civilization.
See, that goes back to what Bigfoot, they're trying to stay away from people.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, it does say it's a possible man-eater, you know.
But
I mean, we know that Bigfoot's carnivore,
Right.
but it trying to get away from
Mm-hmm.
encroaching civilizations.
They did mention Neanderthal origin, which would also the animal skin covering
Right.
with the long hair. That's where that shows intelligence,
Right.
as you know, trying to stay warm and all that. Unlike Bigfoot, who you never hear reports of him wearing anything as clothing.
Right. But you have a difference between Siberia
Yeah,
and Pacific Northwest,
exactly.
or even Appalachian Mountains, Florida, all these different. It's a lot warmer here than it is in Siberia.
Well, look at Himalayas. The
True.
Yeti never wears animal skins.
True.
So that could be the quote unquote missing link versus Sasquatch.
Yeah, it could be. But I mean, we do know that Bigfoot is an intelligent creature because we've all the sightings of Bigfoot sign that it makes, tree
Tree
structure,
knocks. Yep.
tree knocks,
Vocalization. Yeah.
and then another one you got is the Higabon. It's a Japanese Sasquatch. Not a whole lot about it. It's found mostly in the Hibayama Mountains of Hiroshima.
Think about Hiroshima. That could be the mutation
True.
because of us dropping a bomb on them.
It could be, because from what we have on this, you don't have a timeline here.
No.
Like we do with some of them.
And Japanese, as are big on keeping records.
Yes, they are. Let's see. Basically, you got the wild man of China.
Yep.
It's described as 6 feet tall, completely covered with hair except for the knees and hands and face. It says it walks on 2 legs and is reportedly seen both solitary and moving in small clans.
There it goes.
Okay, that picture looks like a monkey.
Yep, the orang pendek.
Yeah.
And-
Sumatra's Sasquatch.
And I mean, there's a lot of people that have actually gone looking for the orang pendek. But nobody has ever gotten a picture.
Right. I mean, it's said to be between 3 and 5 feet tall.
Right.
Covered with short, dark hair with a thick, bushy mane. That's why I said it looked like a monkey with
Yeah, it could be a subspecies of chimpanzee.
Let's see.
So that's about. But I'll tell you, if I am out hunting, and I'm going to say this, there are some states that actually have protection against unknown creatures.
Right.
Mississippi is not one of them. So if I'm out hunting and I quote unquote glimpse this, yeah, I'm going to give a warning. I'm going to yell out if I happen to see something like this. Hey, you in the monkey suit, speak up. And if they don't, it might be the first evidence we ever have. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not opposed to shooting. I'm not.
Right.
And I know a lot of our viewers will probably go, well, that's inhumane, that's just cruel. But that would actually lay credence to all this. Yeah, there's a drawback. If somebody doesn't answer and someone accidentally gets shot, yeah, I would feel bad. But at the same time, on the other hand, if it's an actual creature, there you go.
Right. I mean, you can't be like some of these, like, quote unquote, shows that go after Bigfoot, setting traps and stuff. They've never caught one in a trap.
Right.
But apparently it goes in the traps. So either their traps suck or.
And there was one I was watching where they were putting out gorilla ape scent on like the scent wafers.
Yeah.
They were putting those out to mimic ape smell. They were putting out game cameras. But here's the question. And I'm saying this from a hunter's point of view. And you'll know what I'm saying. If there's any hunters listening. If you're going to put out stuff like this, you need to descent your cameras. Most of the time you see them putting these cameras out, they're not wearing gloves on their hands, like latex gloves to cover up the human scent. After they hang it with their bare hand, they're not spraying it down with descent.
Right.
If they're hanging the ape smell scent wafers, they're not descenting the area either. They're walking out there all sweaty and everything, hating these things, trying to lure something in. If you're going to do that, descent everything. That way, okay, he can smell your scent, yeah. And if he's actually out there, he's watching you do all this. So he knows what you're doing. I'm going to kill it. We've got a wasp in our studio. Comes any closer, I'll get it.
This thing has been driving us crazy all episode.
And, I'll just say this. If you're going to go out setting traps and stuff for this thing, descent what you're doing. But that's just me from a hunter's point of view. Go ahead.
That's really, I mean, all I got for
That's
this
it?
episode. I mean,
Okay.
there's other names. You know, you got the Rougarou, which people in Louisiana,
Yep.
the Cajun people, they say it's a Bigfoot type creature, but it's also a shapeshifter. So I mean,
That goes back to Wendigo.
right.
So, who knows?
Yeah, but I mean, it's been a pretty good episode. We got a lot of information out to you guys. If you guys come across any information, you know, go ahead and shoot us an email.
Yep.
Mainstream Paranormal Podcast at gmail.com.
We will read all emails, and if you want us to, we'll even read your email over the podcast as a question answer podcast itself.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we're always looking for new stuff.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to do a story type podcast, you know, where
Just
you
let
guys
us know.
call in or just shoot us an email with
Your story.
your stories. I think,
You can even send us a video of your story through the email.
yeah.
And
Because I know a lot of people are afraid, you know, they don't want their voice getting out. They don't want their names being put out. You know, kind of
Yeah.
comes back to, you know, people believing or not believing in the paranormal.
Yep. I mean, we before we got into this, we were the same way. We didn't want to be ridiculed. We didn't want people to think we're crazy. We don't want people thinking, hey, they're just, you know, stupid and making fun and jokes and stuff like that. But for the truth to get out there, you've got to step up.
Right.
If you have an experience or something and you don't want to tell anybody because you're afraid of those issues, if you do not want your name mentioned, we will not mention your name. We will keep that totally anonymous. If you want us to read your story, send it to us. Don't, you know, if you got pictures and etc., send us pictures, and we won't read your name unless you want us to.
Yeah. I mean, we decided to, you know, we're doing Twitter and all that stuff
Yep.
now too. If you feel comfortable, I mean, you can shoot us something on Twitter. It's at Mainstream Para, MainstreamPara1, the number 1,
Okay.
or just search Mainstream Paranormal.
And we're also on YouTube.
Yeah, started that.
We're fixing to do YouTube video blogs,
Yeah,
or vlogs, as they call it. And we'll read all comments. We'll answer all comments as fast as we can. Right now, with everybody being quarantined, and I hope everybody's staying safe and indoors, we should be able to get them read and answered pretty quick.
yeah.
But yeah, if you guys have anything, send it to us. And we all hope, again, that you stay safe, stay indoors, and hopefully all this will be over soon.
Yep. So that's all I've got.
That's all I got.
All right. So I'll close out like we always do.
All right.
So I'm Merle.
I'm Larry.
See you on the other side.